Life happens everywhere. Like it never even happened, only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and ServPro.com.
Welcome to Sliced Pizza Bar, where we're passionate about great pizza. All of our food is made fresh daily using only the finest ingredients and techniques. Our chefs put their heart and soul into each pie, and we're sure you'll taste the difference. Located on both the Indian Rocks and Madeira beaches, chances are we're right around the corner for your next pizza night or dinner date. Come give us a try and experience the slice difference.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real-world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Hello everyone, welcome live to Green Light TV and welcome to the High Desert Las Vegas Motor Speedway for the second race in the round of 8 here in the American Sim Racing Series Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series playoffs. I'm Peter Short, and joining me in the booth here tonight is none other than Greg Renson. Greg, I'll tell you what, so far this year we have seen some fantastic racing, but we only have 2 races tonight and next week at Dega to determine who's going to fight for the championship here in this series.
Absolutely, Peter. Only 3 races left in the season, 2, including tonight, like you just mentioned, for the playoff round of 8 to try to get yourself into that championship race coming up in just 2 weeks' time. 8 drivers still contending for that playoff spot. None of them locked themselves in last week, Peter, as a non-playoff driver. Kelsey Rogers was able to get the win at Bristol last week. So Viva Las Vegas, 8 drivers looking for a jackpot to try to get themselves into the championship race.
Yeah, how about that? Kelsey Rogers getting the win last week at Bristol Motor Speedway, picking up his first win of the 2020 Hacksaw's Premier Cup Series Championship. He's been close all season long, Greg, but finally able to get the job done, and he was able to beat, more importantly, one of the playoff drivers, the number 7 of John Jenkins, for that win. But let me flash you back to race number 2 of the season, where John Jenkins actually got the victory here at Vegas. He's trying to do the double here tonight, trying to roll 2 6s, if you will, here in Las Vegas, trying to pick up win number 2 of the season at this racetrack.
And what a moment that would be for him, because he is one of those drivers in the playoffs. A win here is huge regardless, because you automatically have the momentum here coming into this race. But in order to be able to lock yourself into the championship race with a win would be huge. And to come here to the same track that you won earlier in the season with a shot to get yourself in the finals, John Jenkins has to be feeling really good right now. The problem for him right now, Peter, at the practice times, he was in the bottom half of the practice times on the score sheet. So John Jenkins, the winner back here early in the year, work to do on that number 7 Toyota.
Yeah, for sure. Currently being scored 21st out of the cars that we have here tonight. We actually have a pretty significant field here tonight. 32 cars are out there lined up on pit road right now. They're going through their drivers meeting prior to the start of the race, and keep your eyes on the yellow bannered cars here tonight, like the number 24 machine of Alan Young, who you see right there Those are going to be your Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series playoff drivers. You can see the yellow spoiler, the yellow splitter, and also the yellow banner. You'll also see the playoff drivers in blue on the left-hand side of the screen here tonight as these drivers work their way around the racetrack when we finally get up into the race. But why don't we bring up the point standings, because we've alluded to it multiple times here already. And Greg, John Jenkins, Greg Evans, Adam Jersey, Tyler Seville, those are the 4 drivers. If the playoff round ended right now, they would move on to the championship round. It's 4 races to determine the series champion. But then Brian Yazik, Will Warser, Jimmy McKee, Alan Young, those drivers would be on the outside looking in. But of course, we still have a couple races to go. We have tonight and Talladega. And I know a lot of drivers, they might roll the dice here in Vegas, but next week is whether or not they find out whether they got double sixes or snake eyes. It is going to be a big one next week at Talladega. A lot of people's seasons or championship hunts will end next week.
Well, from the land of the gamble in Las Vegas, we're going to a true wild card next week at Talladega. But those guys, they got to get that out of their head right now. They have to focus on this 134-lap, 200-mile race here, brought to you by Dirty Bird here at Las Vegas, Sin City, 200 miles here tonight. Qualifying getting set to start as they come out on track. We're going to get things rolling here with qualifying for this 3rd to final race of the season.
And huge shout out to our friends over at Dirty Bird Sim Racing for jumping on board and sponsoring this race here tonight. You're going to see multiple Dirty Bird Sim Racing drivers in the show here tonight, which is really, really cool, not only to see them out there on the racetrack racing, but giving back the lead, sponsoring races, getting their name out there. And definitely we'll be highlighting them as this race goes on. There's the number 32 machine of Jordan Harnish working his way around in that Ford. He's got the Beef Jerseys cheesecakes on the hood here tonight, Greg. And I'll tell you what, I'm absolutely starving. I already have mentioned that with the Sliced Pizza Bar ad that we just saw. But we're going to find out what the Greg Renz cheesecake of the race is at some point here tonight. As you see, the number 8 machine of Jimmy McKee, he's kind of qualifying here tonight like this is a super speedway there, Greg. Running right up by the wall before he, on lap number 2, is going to dive down to that white line and try and shorten the way around the racetrack.
And we've seen that more and more often now with this new aero package that the Cup cars are using on iRacing. They drive like restrictor plate tracks on these intermediate mile-and-a-half ovals. So you're seeing drivers go with that strategy for the qualifying. Although what McKee did right there with the cross down on the apron, you can't do that at Daytona and Talladega. You can do it here, but that is out of bounds at those big tracks. But McKee in 17th on the first one. 19 cars have qualified so far here. Right now, quick time in qualifying was the quick time in practice. Craig Stykes, the number 57, back in the form that we saw him in earlier this season, because he has been very strong in that number 57. 20 cars so far in Midwest Simulations pole qualifying. We are seeing some spectacular racing here tonight. We're going to see what happens here in the main event.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like we gave a big shout out to Dirty Bird Sim Racing for jumping on and sponsoring tonight's race, well, definitely check out Midwest Simulations. We got the DMLC Racing channel saying, can't say enough about Midwest Simulations. Their spotlights are a must-have for sim racing. They are an absolute necessity. You'd be a goofball not to at least give them a try. So definitely check out our friends over at Midwest Simulation here for sponsoring the qualifying session each and every week here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. And currently, Craig Stykes would walk away as the Midwest Simulations Pole Award winner. We'll have to find out whether or not that holds true as the number 1 machine here trying to work his way around the racetrack. That's Jason Stewart. And Greg, we saw this new paint scheme on the number 1 mobile last week. Great looking paint scheme. Can he pick up the Midwest Simulations pole here tonight?
We'll see on lap number 2 now. He needs 0.3 of a second to get up there to Craig Stykes. 30.301 for Jason Stewart, currently sitting 21st. Remember, he made the playoffs, but did not make it through to the round of 8. Came up just a couple spots short of that. So Jason Stewart still searching for that first Hacksaw PC's Premier Series victory. Dove does have a win in the Thursday Night Throwback Series this season. He picks up 1 spot to move into 20th, so not the qualifying lap he was looking for, but we'll see if he can make his way through the field, perhaps on some strategy. Jason Stewart not afraid to roll the dice in the past. He's in Vegas. Why not give it a shot tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of funny. You said Jason Stewart jumped up 1 position, and then he got sent 1 position right back. AJ Digby jumped up to the 7th position on the board. Sam Crow now jumping up into the 23rd position. We'll see if he can pick it up on his second lap, working away around the bottom of the racetrack. Looks like possibly a little bit of a wiggle on that number 5 machine, going through turn number 2. And Greg, from what we've seen here tonight, once these drivers get past the Midwest Simulations pole qualifying, I've heard that tonight's cars are very loosey-goosey. We, of course, race a fixed setup here in the American Sim Racing Series Hacksaw Premier Cup Series. And after 5 to 10 laps, it sounds like the tires really give up the ghost a little bit, and then it becomes a little bit of a skating rink. So it could be an interesting show tonight.
And we've seen that with other tracks in this variety. We saw it with Chicago earlier this year. Kentucky, another one that we saw a lot of sliding around. So this layout of track, the D-shaped oval, notorious for getting these cars sliding around. And that also goes back to the old racing surface here for Las Vegas. This track was originally built back in 1997. Well, opened in 1997. This is an old racing surface, Peter. So the old worn out pavement definitely going to play a role in that. And here we go. Greg Evans, the number 2, 10 wins on the season. Playoff driver right now, trying to lock himself into the championship race. On track now.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg Evans in this number 2 machine. I'll tell you what, Greg. He was one of those drivers who was really fast here earlier this year at Vegas, but he did not get the win. It was the number 7 of John Jenkins. So I'm keeping my eye on Evans. I feel like he has a little bit of something to prove here, especially with how well he ran earlier this year. Didn't pick up the win. As you see the 0-1 of Brad Lee jump out there. He's the only driver currently on the scoring pylon who did not turn a lap time in practice. He just jumped in to the session here during the Midwest Simulations pole qualifying, but he's currently being scored 29th out of 29 drivers, and it looks like it's going to be one and done for that 0-1 machine.
Yeah, tough one there for Brad Lee in the 0-1. Bottom of the board right now. 29 cars have taken time of 33 in the session right now. So 33 cars entered, cars that have yet to hit the track for qualifying. J.R. Bash, John Van Varelis, Todd Kirkwood, and Richard Fletcher. Those are your 4 cars that have yet to hit the track right now, with little over 3 minutes left in qualifying. Craig Stykes on top of the board with Will Worsler and Tyler Seville and Doug Mullins in 4th. So look at that, Peter. 1, 2, 3, 4 for Will Worsler Racing right now.
Yeah, in fact, I was going to go down and see if I could get a quick word possibly with the number 29 machine of Will Worsler, because he's, of course, one of those playoff drivers who needs a good run. He's on the outside kind of looking in after Bristol. Will Worsler, Peter Short, here in the 3Y TV booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, Bristol did not exactly go the way the number 29 machine was hoping it would go. Of course, you got a win a couple weeks back at the Roval, but here tonight, lightning quick so far, and with just about 2.5 minutes left in Midwest Simulations pole qualifying, you are sitting 2nd in the highest up of all of the playoff drivers. Do you think you have a shot here tonight?
I think I have a shot. I also think that it's going to be, I think everybody's going to be fast for a number of laps. It's it's just going to be trying not to get caught up in anything and in anything, and seeing, about what you can do if you're still there at the end with a clean car. And that's kind of my goal. I'm looking to just, kind of run my race and stay out of trouble and have a clean car with 50 to go and see what I can do.
Now, if I remember rightly, earlier this season, right here at Las Vegas, you had a very fast hot rod. You ended up making contact with the outside retaining wall. How important is that right front on a track like this that is so aero dependent?
Yeah, they've got these cars that are as aero dependent as they could be. I mean, we we go down the track. If you're behind anybody, you're getting pulled. So it's very aero dependent, and if you lose that, then you're pretty well done. I mean, you may it'll be a situation where, late in the run, if you get a long run, then tire wear can mitigate that, and will take over as the predominant factor. But first 15 or 20 laps, it's going to be big.
That raises an interesting point just before we let you go here. Saving tires versus losing track position. What do you think is going to be key here tonight?
As far as tire wear, for what we found practicing this week, the right rear is what you've got to look out for, burning it up. I don't think any of us really had a problem with the right front. So, it's always, a delicate dance that you do between tire wear and speed. You also got to go through a filling out process of the race, how it's going to go, if you're going to get long runs or not. This track tends to yield long runs, so that's what we're planning on. That's what we've been practicing on, and we'll see how it goes.
All right, well, we'll let you go, Will. Best of luck here tonight, and maybe we'll get to see you in Victory Lane.
That'd be great. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
All right, well, that is the man who will be starting on the outside of your Midwest Simulations pole winner, the number 57 of Craig Sykes. Great to see Craig Sykes back in the race here tonight, Greg. And not only that, lightning quick sitting up there and winning the Midwest Simulations pole.
Yeah, I remember back around mid-season, Craig Sykes, it seemed like every single week was running up front, leading laps, looked like he was threatening to win his second race of the season. And we lost him for a few weeks, didn't see him around for a few races, and ever since he returned, he just hasn't been in the same form. But it looks like he has rediscovered that form here tonight, because he has locked it up, the Momentum Simulations pole. And Peter, let's take him through who all is starting behind him, because Craig Sykes is going to lead in the green, but it is a whole field behind him.
Yep, there is your Midwest Simulations pole award winner, Craig Sykes, getting out there on the grid. Starting alongside him, his teammate, Will Worsler. We just had a chat with him. He is the highest placed driver at the start that is in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series playoffs. Starting on row number 2 on the inside, Tyler Seville, another playoff driver, and starting to the outside, another one of his teammates, the number 18 of Doug Mullins. Inside row number 3 was your winner from earlier this year here at Las Vegas, the number 7 of John Jenkins, and last week's race winner, Kelsey Rogers, in the number 34 machine to his outside. And remember, those two had contact coming to the checkered flag last week. On the inside of row number 4, AJ Digby in the number 14 machine, Michael Krobach in the number 72, one of those former playoff drivers. He was eliminated after the first round, rolling off from P8. On the inside of row number 5, his teammate, the HPSimulation.com 55 machine of Brian Yazik. Yellow stripes all over that car. He's one of those playoff drivers, and starting to his outside, and running out your top 10, the number 50 of Christopher Bouchard.
Another solid qualifying run for Alex Giese in the number 77. He rolls off 11th with Michael Whiting to his outside. As they get rolling, they're going to be green this time, so we're going to go rapid fire through here. James Lorello and playoff driver Alan Young, 13th and 14th. Playoff driver Greg Evans, a lot of people's favorite to win the championship, 15th. Jordan Harnish, 16th. Playoff drivers Jimmy McKee and Adam Jersky, 17th and 18th. Woody Mahan and Sam Crow round out the top 20.
Starting in the 21st position, Jake Rabel. To his outside, Mark Myers in the 04 machine. Jason Stewart, Tanner Sharp on row number 12. Richard Stallings, Tim Knott, row number 13. Pete Bassins, Troy Haight, row number 14. Brad Lee, the last car to take time to start on the inside of row number 15. To his outside, John Van Varillis, just take you through the last portion of your field. Richard Fletcher, J.R. Bash, and Todd Kirkwood will round out your 33 cars who will take the green flag here tonight. Good field here for the penultimate round, or penultimate race of the round of 8, I should say, because we're about to go green flag there, Greg.
And it's an all-Will Worsler top 4. You see there, those are the fast Chevys that everyone's going to be chasing, but keep your eye on the 7 of Jenkins, the winner back here in the spring, looking to sweep it here in Vegas and lock himself in the championship. 8 drivers looking for one of those spots. We're coming to a green here at Las Vegas. Let's roll the dice for 134 laps.
And the green flag is out. The field getting rolling nice and neatly side by side for the race lead. Look at all of these cars jostling for position already. Side by side up at the front, the 57 of Sykes going to try and pull ahead just a little bit. Here comes the 11 of Tyler Seville. He's battling with Zero and Will Worcester. Those 2 drivers in the playoffs. Tyler Seville going to drop the field inside, trying to look for the race lead here on lap number 1. And look at the number 7 of John Jenkins. Led a good portion of last week's race at Bristol Motor Speedway. He's trying to get himself up to the front now in the 3rd position. So already we're starting to see that inside groove be just a little bit better than the outside line. That may change later on, as look at the 57 of Sykes getting a run around there on the high side. He's looking to take the lead back.
Sykes wants to lead back from his teammate. He still wants to win, even though he's out of the playoffs. He still wants to get that win in the number 57 that he's been looking for since Talladega. So many strong runs, gets back up to the lead. But John Jenkins in the 7th, trying to split up the Will Worcester party up there right now as we go on board with Doug Mullins in the 18, who rides in 5th behind Jenkins now. Now going up to pick up his car over Will Worcester. I love this shot right here as we look out the driver's side window as he roars past Jenkins and now goes after Seville. Looks like the outside lane beginning to roll as Horsler has cleared Seville for 2nd. They're side by side for 3rd as AJ Digby also beginning to join this battle as well.
So now the big question is going to be how many of these drivers are saving their stuff and how many of these drivers are just going to use up their stuff. We've seen it before here in the American Sim Racing Series that some drivers just kind of go out there, rabbit in the hare, or excuse me, hare in the tortoise style, and just burn up their stuff. And then the tortoise, with those saved up tires, slowly tracks them down and takes the lead and the race win. So definitely going to be something to keep an eye on here tonight, especially with Will Worcester talking about how important tires are, especially the right rear. And folks, the way the car is set up, the way the car drives, and how the individual drives the car dictates what tire you're going to burn off first. If the car is a little bit loose and you let the car roll, you back up your corner, so to speak, you have a tendency to burn up the right rear. However, if you drive really hard into the corner, you're going to burn up the right front. Here tonight, it sounds like the right rear, due to the setup and how the Will Worcester racing drivers are driving this racetrack, it seems like the right rear might be what we're talking about at the end of the night. So going to be interesting to see how that goes on. But Greg, when you burn up that right rear tire, the car has a tendency to get looser and looser and looser and looser. And of course, we don't want to see any cautions here tonight because the no caution bounty is still out there. It's up over $150. It's closing in on $200. Perhaps tonight could be the night that someone claims that bounty.
Have to see how it goes. And going back to what you talked about with tire wear, remember 4 sets of tires for this race tonight. They have 3 sets of tires on pit road. This is one of the largest amounts of tires that we've seen in an ASRS race yet this season. Not too often do you see drivers with 3 sets of tires on pit road. So tire wear going to be very crucial here, but that extra set of tires might be what these guys need to be able to go out and not worry so much about tire wear as much as you would normally see, I should say. You'll still have to babysit the right side tires for sure, but with that extra set of tires, you can take a little bit more aggressive approach into this than we normally would.
Yeah, definitely, that's for sure. However, if we don't get cautions to come down and change tires, it could be all for naught. So hopefully we can stay green flag and kind of let this race naturally play out. John Jenkins in the number 7 machine, he's trying to get underneath Craig Stykes. Will Worcester got himself up to the race lead about 5 laps ago now. So Will Worcester, the playoff driver, got that yellow spoiler you can see right there. Also on the left side of your screen, you can keep track of all the playoff drivers and their positions as they cycle through the ticker. Their names are listed in blue, so pretty cool to see that. And of course, if someone wins tonight, they will be automatically locked in to the final round, assuming they make a start next week at Talladega. And I know what, Greg, none of these drivers in the playoff want to go to Talladega with the possibility of being involved in the big one and having their entire season literally end up in smoke.
Yeah, if a playoff driver wins here tonight, they are officially Dega-proof moving into next week's race. But John Jenkins is making a move. He wants that position because he is to the inside of Worcester. He has been making that inside line work, chipping away, has already gotten past Seville, Mullins, and Stykes, and is now trying to get the lead from the 4th Will Worcester car, which just so happens to be the guy who owns those 4 cars, Will Worcester. But look who else is beginning to show a hand here early. Chris Bouchard in the number 50, He said his goal after getting knocked out of the playoffs early in the round of 12 was to go out and win all 4. Didn't get it done last week at Bristol, but he's having another great run here early at Las Vegas. A win at Pocono this season, looking to hit the jackpot tonight.
Yeah, that number 50 machine is one of the only cars that's going down below the white line, going through the center of the tri-oval, just trying to shorten up the racetrack a little bit. It looks like he's going to take the 5th position away from the 11 of Seville. And whoa, Will Wurzler flirting with the outside wall, almost banged up that right front like he did earlier this season here at Las Vegas, inches away from making contact with the safer barrier, but he was able to keep it off. That right front stays nice and clean. That's what you want to say for the rest of the race because of the aero dependency of this racetrack. These cars are very, very quick. 184 at the end of the front straight. They only drop down to about 173 miles an hour through the center of turn number 1 and 2. That's only about 11 miles per hour, Greg. That is not a lot of difference. These cars are almost flat out here tonight, at least at this point. They're going to be lifting as the run goes on because of the tire wear, but at this point, a lot of flat out and barely lifting.
Did you see that block by Doug Mullins in the 18 going up to try to throw Chris Bouchard off? Let's take a look at the 3Y TV replay.
Yeah, this is a little bit hairy, I'll tell you that, Greg. Look at Bouchard, gets the run coming out of the corner. He's trying to get to the outside of the number 18 machine, shows his nose up there, and the 18 just says, you know, I'm just going to slowly kind of slide up here, block that momentum. And that battle for position's not done yet because Bouchard is now on the inside of the number 18 of Mullins here as we go through the tri-oval and off into turn number 1. Bouchard on that inside groove. Ooh, I say he was on the inside groove. Not really. They make contact. Mullins in the 18 in the outside wall. He stays up there. Heavy right side damage to the number 18 of Doug Mullins. He's going to drop way back in the pack. That is a lot of right side damage. That number 18 machine will definitely be suffering here tonight. And no caution. Green flag stays in the air. You see both of those cars racing tight with one another and just making contact there in the center of the corner. And unfortunately, Mullins gets the bad end of that stick.
Remember, no fast repairs in the iRacing server either here in the ASRS Hacksaw PC's Premier Series. So that is going to be a long night for Doug Mullins. And a couple of risky moves there with Mullins with the block there and then getting up, trying to side draft there with Bouchard. It just goes wrong. Peter, too early for that and it just came back to bite him, or what's your take on that?
Yeah, there's definitely not a lot of give and take at this point in the race. I know the 50 of Bouchard probably was a little bit upset with that block that was thrown on him there through the tri-oval. And sometimes if you're going to race hard with other drivers earlier in the race, it can lead to that sort of thing. I mean, I'm sure Bouchard, it was unintentional between both of those drivers to have that contact. But sometimes that happens, man. If you're not going to give someone a position, you can end up running into one of the other cars, and definitely, unfortunately, the number 18 machine now well off the pace. He's dropped all the way back to 25th position here and really struggling on pace. Meanwhile, back up the front, we're now single file for the first 3 cars. The number 11 machine of Tyler Seville there trying to get or stay in front of the number 50 of Chris Bouchard. Bouchard really closed in on him there. And looks like Bouchard, you're going to stay in the 5th position for now. AJ Digby sitting in 6th. Brian Yazik in the 55 just got himself up to the 7th position. Michael Krobach and Kelsey Rogers side by side back for the 8th position. And then Greg Evans in the number 2 machine currently rounds out your top 10. And he's gained 5 positions from the start of the race.
Yeah, I've been watching the 2 of Evans slowly make his way up through the field, which you've come to expect out of him in the number 2 when he doesn't have the best qualifying effort. Meanwhile, the battle is back on for second. John Jenkins had gotten up and even gotten his nose in front a couple of times leading a lap, but he's fallen back to third. We go on board with Tyler Seville, who's got the best seat in the house for this battle for second between Jenkins and Stikes. Jenkins with a nice run into turn number 1, actually able to get up to the door once again of Will Wurzler. Jenkins has led a couple laps into number 7, trying to get back up there and clear and get himself a clean shot at the lead, but boy, we are seeing this right now out of Tyler Seville's windshield. This is a hectic battle early between Jenkins and Wurzler.
Yeah, a lot of side-by-side. I'm a bit surprised by that because usually when you race side-by-side, you really burn off your tires, but you usually burn off the right front. So if these cars are struggling with right rear here tonight, maybe the 7 of Jenkins is thinking, you know what, maybe if I burn up my right front a little bit, it will kind of even out and it won't be as big of a disadvantage as the run goes on. But he's pretty steadfast to that inside group. A lot of the rest of the field now running about 1 to 1.5 lanes up through turn number 1 and 2, but Jenkins still right down there on that white line, trying to make it work, trying to get around Craig Sykes, unable to make that pass fully stick. As you can see, once again, Jenkins down there on the inside, the 57 getting a run on the outside, but this is exactly what some of the cars a little bit further back want to see. Side by side now for the 7th position, AJ Digby and Michael Krobach. Krobach's going to be on the inside. He's going to roll past AJ Digby here through turn number 3 and 4, so move him up a position. And Jenkins still kind of stuck there, and now he's got Tyler Seville to contend with because he got to his right rear quarter panel going on this turn number 1.
But Jenkins was able to get a nice run into turn number 1 there through turn 1 and get back up on Stikes before losing ground there off turn number 2. Crossover by Seville as he's now going to try the inside lane. He's got Bouchard back there with him. And Brian Yazik, who we talked about, was kind of struggling in practice earlier. We were talking about that in pre-race, but has transferred it over very nicely here in the race. Qualified 9th, started 6th, looking for 5th right now inside of Bouchard. Gets it at the line, so Brian Yazik, who's having a phenomenal playoff run. That win in Kentucky was exactly what the doctor ordered for Yazik, because ever since then, he has really run very well. And this playoffs, this is race number 5 now overall in the playoffs. Brian Yazik has been one of the most consistent drivers in the series since the start of the playoffs.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. That number 55 machine, Mark Cohn in the chat saying 55 might have a good long run car. And let's talk about long run here at Las Vegas, because even though these cars are kind of bunched together, we're logging a lot of green flag laps here in the early running. Already 25 laps in the rear this time by. I expect these cars to run about 60 laps or so on a tank of fuel. They might be able to stretch just a little bit more than that. So these drivers here closing in on halfway through the first fuel run, assuming we go caution free. I do believe these drivers will have to pit at least twice, but perhaps some of the drivers in the field here, Greg, are thinking about the fact that if you were to divide 134 by 3, you would only get about 45 laps or so. So that's something that if I'm one of these drivers, I'm thinking about maybe not running it all the way out of fuel. Pit on lap number 45. That splits the race into even thirds. And if you're some of the drivers like the number 50 of Christopher Bouchard, who has nothing to lose, that might be a strategy that you employ. But at the same time, you do not want to lose the draft, because the draft here is quite important, folks. It's not Daytona, it's not Talladega, but with the big hole in the air that these Cup cars punch, draft here is important, and that's one of the reasons why we've seen this field bunched together so much in the early running, although we're starting to see it spread out just a little bit as we have a side-by-side battle for the 6th position. Greg Evans is slowly closing in. Greg trying to get that 6th spot from the number 50.
He's chipping away more and more. Had it at the line, but Bouchard comes fighting back in that number 50. But man, oh man, Greg Evans just keeps chipping away little by little by little by little. Oh, a big slide there off turn number 2 is going to allow Bouchard to get a run back on the outside. We have our first car to park it behind the wall and load it up on the trailer. Todd Kirkwood done for the day in the number 86. He came down pit road on lap number 26. So Todd Kirkwood is down and out. He's the first car out of the race.
Yeah, I also saw the number 55 of Brian Yazik have a big slide in turn number 1 and 2 in that HPPsimulation.com Ford Mustang 1 lap ago. So these tires really starting to get slick out there. The front 13 cars or so have kind of broken away. Adam Jersky, Woody Mahan kind of just hanging on to that group. Alan Young in 16th, but then from 16th to 17th, Jason Stewart running in that 17th position. He's got quite a bit of damage. I'm not 100% sure where all the damage came from for Jason Stewart. As you can see, it's on the left front, so you couldn't quite see it there, blocked by the ticker just a little bit. There you can see it a little bit better. He's got left front damage and also left rear damage, which, Greg, that's kind of surprising on a track like this because, of course, the wall's on the right-hand side, as there is the 77 and Alex Giese getting passed by Michael Whiting. We did have a Michael Whiting fan in the chat here tonight at the very top of the show, Seth Olson, saying the 44 said it's like ice after 10 laps. Let's see how it goes tonight. Well, Whiting starting to work his way towards the front just a little bit. Maybe he's been saving his tires in that Brookside Equipment Sales bright yellow machine. There's the 0-1 of Brad Lee, one of those drivers who did not take time in practice. And whoa, big moment for Brad Lee coming out of turn number 2. He gets it woed back up. He's running right behind the number 18 of Doug Mullins, who was involved in that earlier contact with the number 50 machine, but back up at the front, Greg Evans in the 50. This battle has resumed, Greg.
And speaking of up at the front, we have a new race leader. Tyler Seville has gotten up to the lead now in the number 11. Another playoff driver, and he, remember, Peter, is the one who broke through to get ahead of Greg Evans in the Surf Pro Wheelman Showdown with a good run a few weeks ago. Tyler Seville leading the way here tonight, looking to lock himself into the championship race. Yeah,
Greg Evans not able to get past Christopher Bouchard just yet. Will Warser has slid back to the 3rd position. Craig Sykes now back to 4th, and in 5th spot is where you find Brian Yazik. One thing I'm thinking about here, Greg, is how important is clean air. You know, we've talked about here tonight, the draft is important, but I think the clean air is also going to be important for saving your tires.
Yeah, the clean air is going to come in huge tonight, Peter. You want to keep your car in that clean air, and we're seeing it right now with John Jenkins right behind Tyler Seville looking out the back window. You can see the clean air. He gets a nice run right there, but once he falls in behind the 11 car, gets in that dirty air, it disrupts his momentum. So you want to get up there. You're now having to use more momentum to try to get up there, where if you're in the clean air, you're kind of just riding around. You're using more momentum to try to get up there when you're in the dirty air, which is using up just that much more of the tires.
We do have a couple of takers on pit road, believe it or not. One of those is Sam Crow in the number 5 machine. He's currently being scored 4 laps down, so I'm not 100% sure what happened to him. But Doug Mullins in the number 18 Sliced Porcupines machine also in his pit box. You saw all the damage on that number 5 of Crow. And there is Mullins. We saw what happened to him now probably about 20 laps ago as we're working lap number 35. Just 100 laps to go now. These drivers really clicking them off pretty quick. We've been green flag now for about 20 minutes, and we're already a quarter of the way through the race.
Going away quickly here so far, Peter. Less than 100 to go already here in the Dirty Bird Sim Racing 200 here on 3YTV. It's Seville, Jenkins, Forster, Stites, Yazik, your top 5. So good side-by-side deeper in the field right now between Adam Jersky, Alan Young, Woody Mahan, and a host of others as they're just battling it out from 13 back to 15. So it's a good side-by-side deep in the field right now.
Yeah, and I think I found out what happened to Sam Crow as well as the number 1 of Jason Stewart. Remember, we saw that damage on the left side of Jason Stewart's bright silver 1 machine. There was contact between Jason Stewart, Alex Giese, and Sam Crow coming out of turn number 2. That happened about 6 or 7 laps ago, and unfortunately, the 5 of Crow got the bad end of that stick. He's still sitting on pit road trying to get that damage repaired. Mullins is also sitting on pit road. A very lengthy stop for that number 18 machine. It might be day done for the 18 of Doug Mullins, which is such a shame. Started this race on the outside of row number 2, early contact with the number 50 machine, and he continues to sit stationary. Not stationary, however, is the number 11 of Tyler Seville, continuing to lead his way around the racetrack. You see John Jenkins poking his nose out there right on that higher line. Will Warsler leading a little bit of a train on the inside groove. Brian Yazik got himself up into the 4th position recently. Craig Sykes back into 5th, so your pole sitter now slid back to 5th. And Greg Evans was able to get around Christopher Bouchard, so he gets himself up to 6th. And what about Jimmy McKee and the McKee Lawn Care Services number 8 mobile? He's got himself up into the 8th position, running down the 50 of Christopher Bouchard. Remember, he's one of your playoff drivers, and let's see if we can bring up those playoff points down there. at the bottom of the screen, so you can kind of see how all the drivers came into tonight. John Jenkins, Greg Evans, Adam Jersky, Tyler Seville, all in the green. And then you have Brian Yazik currently running in the 4th position. Will Worser currently running in the 3rd position. Jimmy McKee down in 8th. And definitely the one driver kind of struggling here tonight in that group, or in 2 drivers kind of struggling here tonight in that group. The 24 of Alan Young, excuse me, in the 15th position. And Adam Jersky in the number 69 mobile, he is down in the 16th position. I'll tell you what, Greg, that Beef Jersky's Cheesecake number 69, kind of struggling so far, but perhaps saving his tires. Here he goes for the 15th spot on Woody Mahan. But of course, it's time for everyone's favorite segment of the race. I think it's time to dial up the Greg Ritz Cheesecake of the race. Sorry about that, folks. I was going to say the Greg Evans Cheesecake of the race, and I was like, wait, that's not right. Of course, Greg Evans' favorite cheesecake is best served in Victory Lane. But Greg Ritz, what is your cheesecake of the race?
Well, Peter, with us going to Vegas, a lot of times you want to go hog wild in Vegas. You just want to go absolutely crazy. But every once in a while, you just got to settle down and have something nice and simple. Like, say, for instance, white chocolate raspberry. That is this week's cheesecake of the race. White chocolate raspberry, a nice, calm, simple cheesecake to settle down after a wild weekend in Vegas with the ASRS Hacksaw PC's Premier Series. White chocolate raspberry, this week's Greg Rentz cheesecake of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you what, I could do with a slice of white chocolate raspberry cheesecake right now, for darn sure, because I'm darn hungry. Meanwhile, back up at the front, John Jenkins and Craig Stykes doing battle. So Craig Stykes here trying to get the 3rd position back. It slid back to 4th. But John Jenkins in that number 7 trying to hold tough on the outside group. That's allowing Brian
Yazik coming to
Yazik.
pit road, Peter. Yeah, just saying.
You know what? I think Yazik heard me, because this is lap number 43 going on to 44. This is the 1/3 race distance. He knows that drivers have to pit twice in the race. So he's making his first pit stop, and from here he will only have to make one more pit stop for the remainder of the race. He goes into this pit box nice and neatly, gonna put on 4 fresh tires. What can he do? I think the big question, Greg, is gonna be, what will fresh tires do? And I think a lot of the field realizing what fresh tires will probably do for Brian Yazik. They're also coming down. Here's Will Worcester. Looks like the number 50 came down as well. So definitely going to be interesting to see how this all pans out. Will we see the rest of the field down pit road here this time by?
I think you're going to see the rest of the field blink here, Peter, as a couple playoff contenders now. 2 of them are on fresher tires, in Worcester and Yazik, and you don't want to give up that much track position. We'll see if anyone makes the left turn. Yes, we got a host of them coming down, led by Jimmy McKee in the number 8 and last week's winner at Bristol. Kelsey Rogers, the 34, leading this group of about 5 or 6 cars down, along with Michael Krobach. Looks like James Lorello for War Turtle Racing back in the field tonight. And I believe that's Adam Jersky in the 69. I believe that's who I thought I saw. Yes, it was. So 2 more playoff drivers coming down. So now we are well into pit stops here.
Tyler Seville going off strategy just a little bit. He's staying out there on the racetrack, leading the race. Craig Stykes sitting in the 2nd spot. Greg Evans got himself now up to 3rd. He got around John Jenkins in the number 7, Max Pappas Innovations Toyota Camry. So a little bit of a shuffle here inside the top 5. And that number 2 machine of Greg Evans, if he's been saving his tires, and we've seen all season long that he's one of the best at saving his stuff, he's going to have to start using up those tires, because now we're seeing a lot of drivers come down pit road, put on those fresh tires. We know that they're going to be good to the end on just one more stop. Evans, Seville, Stykes, and company up at the front, they're all going to have to pit twice from here. So not too much to be gained by staying out here, Greg, unless there is a caution, which could change everything.
We've seen that happen a couple of times in the past. Cautions falling right in the middle of green flag pit stops, which throws the entire race on its roof. We'll see if it happens here. Right now, your top 3 are still Seville, Stykes, and Evans, and then John Jenkins. And Jordan Harnish has worked his way up into the top 5 through this pit cycle by staying out so far. So the other Beef Jersky's Cheesecake entry, the 32 of Jordan Harnish, is having himself a top 5 run for the time being. Of course, there's still quite a few cars that have yet to come down pit road. By my count, 12 have not come down pit road yet. From Seville all the way down to Van Varellis have yet to pit so far, Peter.
Yeah, without a doubt, going to be interesting to see how this all pans out. Folks, if you're thinking about lap time, Tyler Seville in the number 11 machine last time by ran a 31.5 second lap. Compare that to Will Worsler, who ran a 30.5, so about a second difference between the number 11 of Tyler Seville and Will Worsler, who is currently their first driver on fresh tires. He's actually a little bit ahead of Brian Yazik, who came down pit road, I think, 1 lap prior to that number 29 machine. There you see them working their way through turn number 3 and 4. They're currently being scored 1 lap down. So if a caution flag was to come out, they would be trapped 1 lap down. And I think Will Worsler currently is sitting in the lucky dog position. No, take that back. Mark Myers in the 04 machine is in the lucky dog position, so they wouldn't even have that benefit. But they're trying to get back to that lucky dog position as quick as possible. There is Mark Myers currently running that 04 machine in the 13th position. He has yet to come down pit road. There you can see Will Worsler eating into that gap by about a second and a lap here. That's pretty significant, as we have just gotten over lap number 50. Picking them up, putting them down here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Greg.
And it's really good to see, Peter, because I was a little bit curious how this was going to go. If we could get a solid 10-lap run in, what would happen? And it looks like once this field got spread out, these guys have really settled down and done a nice job here getting things rolling right now. Still 12 cars on the lead lap, as I think we now know who's trying to do it on 1 stop and who's trying to do it on 2 or 3. We'll see what happens moving forward. But Seville, Stikes, Evans, your top 3 right now, with Jenkins right on Evans' back bumper. 3 of those 4 are playoff drivers. And remember, no one has yet to lock themselves into the championship race, as Mark Myers in the 04 has his hand out the window. He's ducking down pit road, so he will surrender the 13th position for tires in the 04. But no one's locked into the championship round yet. So these drivers are all looking to try to hit the jackpot here and get themselves not only into the championship race, but to a level that they don't have to worry about Talladega next week.
Yeah, that is the end goal, I think, for just about every single playoff driver, is get the win here tonight, so you don't have to worry about that one next week, because super speedways, like we've been mentioning all night, there are wild cards. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know when the big one's going to strike. You can hang out in the back, and sometimes that works out nicely. Sometimes laying out in the back sometimes works against you. So definitely a lot of different strategies to employ at a super speedway. And it's going to be fun to find out which one of these drivers will make their way into the Final Four. Here we go, on board with the number 24 machine, and I believe, is that Kelsey Rogers down there on fresh tires? I believe it is, yeah. Watch him just completely drive off into the sunset. The number 14 of AJ Digby and the 32 of Jordan Harnish, and there you see that sunset, a beautiful setting sun here in the high desert of Las Vegas. Just a couple miles away from the Las Vegas Strip here, Rick. Very close proximity, all things considered, to downtown Las Vegas. It's the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, which makes it one of the most accessible racetracks in the entire NASCAR schedule for fans. Very, very cool to see. And looking out back of the number 24 machine of Alan Young, there's the 84 of Woody Mahan. He's on fresh tires. He's trying to work his way up through. This is not easy for Woody Mahan. He's trying to try the high side. Now he's going to duck back low. Very, very difficult for some of these drivers to get up through traffic. And I'll tell you what, Greg, I've been in the position of both the 24 and the 84. If you're in the 84, you're thinking the number 24 is a moving chicane. And if you're in the 24 machine, you're doing everything you can to lose as little time as possible.
Hey, you're just trying to keep those fast guys behind you as long as possible, at least until you can get onto pit road, where you'll have the tire advantage moving forward. As meanwhile, Craig Stikes is reeled back in, up on Tyler Seville in the number 11, with Greg Evans lurking back there, top 3 all less than a second apart. But ding, ding, ring the bell, dinner bell, Peter, because those cars on fresh tires have split up the top 4, and here they come, led by Will Worsler.
And speaking of the dinner bell, I think your leaders are going to have to come down pit road here very shortly, probably within the next 10 laps, I would think. The big question is whether or not they can stretch it to halfway. They're only 9 laps or so away from that halfway mark. And if they can get there, then we know that they can make it to the end on only just one more stop, which would be very, very impressive, all things considered. But I think they're going to have to pit here within the next 5 laps or so. Here's Will Worsler in the number 29 machine. Remember, he's leading the train of cars who have already pitted. He's going to close right in on the back bumper of the number 11 machine. They are teammates, so don't think that the number 11 machine will be coming down pit road here. So he's going to go another lap, but Will Worsler will get himself back onto the lead lap with that fresher rubber on that number 29 Slice Porcupines machine. And the 55 of Brian Yazek going to follow him through back onto the lead lap. And as you can see, just how much of an advantage those fresh tires are.
That is huge, Peter, as you see it right there. Meanwhile, Chris Bouchard not having as easy a time getting through it as Worsler Yazek did as he broke loose there. Tyler Seville coming down pit road, race leader. Their top 3 coming down, so they have decided now is the time as they're going to pull down pit road. John Jenkins, I believe, stayed out. Yes, he did, so Jenkins is going to keep going and inherit the race lead, but your top 3 coming down pit road now. So with that being said, about a little under 20 lap differential on the tires for these guys now. How much of an advantage is that going to be for them moving forward?
Greg, I saw the number 2 machine of Greg Evans get into pit road very, very hot. Here comes the number 7. Speaking of getting on pit road very, very hot, there's the 7 of Jenkins. I'm going to be curious to see if Greg Evans has a speeding penalty here. Looks like he's down and away, so no speeding penalty on the number 2 machine. That was very, very tight. Evans trying to get everything he could on pit road. In fact, he's going to beat both the 57 and the number 11 out of the pit box. So fantastic job by the number 2 machine, not only to get on pit road as quick as possible, but that pit crew doing a fantastic job getting him out front of that group. However, now that things are kind of cycling through, Bradley in the 01 machine, he's going to take the race lead, I do believe. No, he's out of fuel. He's out of fuel. He's down there on the bottom of the racetrack. The 01 machine, you can see that he's off the pace. Just that 01 machine not picking up any fuel. He's going to have to coast around here. Hopefully he doesn't bring out a caution. He's going 84 miles an hour through turn number 3 and 4 right now. And I think he's going to make it. Yeah, he's going to make it. Now, I don't know if he's going to make it to his pit box, but he's going to make it to pit road. He, of course, was one of the drivers a little bit further back in the pack, so he doesn't have as far to go. That's the good news. Definitely coasting in neutral right now to that yellow cone. Meanwhile, back up at the front, Will Worsler has taken the race lead in that number 29 machine. We mentioned the fact that he was the first car on the fresher tires. He's got just about 0.2 of a second, less than that, on Brian Yazek here in the HPPSimulation.com Ford. And then Christopher Bouchard runs behind him in the FXR Profish Ford Mustang. He's running in 3rd. Kelsey Rogers, last week's race winner from Bristol. The Dirty Bird Sim Racing Bristol 200 last week. The Dirty Bird Sim Racing Las Vegas 200 here tonight. And Kelsey Rogers trying to do a little bit of the double with the Dirty Bird Sim Racing team. And Woody Mahan currently running in the 5th spot in the Mahan Speed Laboratories Ford Mustang. He's right in front of one-year playoff driver Jimmy McKee. Michael Krobach is running in the 7th position. Greg Evans, though, in the number 2 machine, he was the first car who came off pit road that pitted just before the halfway mark. He pitted 4 laps ago or so, and he's, all things considered here, Greg, I mean, he's still up there inside the top 10. He's 8.5 seconds or so behind the race leaders, but all things considered, that's pretty darn good considering he pitted about 15 laps later than Will Morris and Brian Yazek and company.
And they are eating away about 0.7 of a second a lap, Peter, because all this group right here on screen, Seville, Evans, Stikes, Jenkins, all of them pitted within a lap of each other. Those first 3 pitted on the same lap, Jenkins the lap later, and they're eating away about 0.7 to a full second a lap on the race leader. So it's not going to be too long before they're back up there making noise for the race leader.
Yeah, that last time by, the number 2 machine at 30.593, Will Worsler at 31.6 4:13. So, folks, you do the math. That is about 8.5 tenths of a second that last time by. Huge gap in pace between the 29 and the number 2 machine. And right now, Will Worsler up at the front, 6.8 seconds in front of the number 2, Greg Evans. So definitely going to be interesting to see how that number drops down. But Greg, one thing to keep in mind here was a couple of these drivers like Will Worsler, Ryan Yazik, they pitted around lap number 43 to 45. They only have about 20 laps or so before we see those cars back on pit road.
Yeah, before too long, they're going to have to come down just because of the way they went. Those tires are going to be so shot that the guys out there on the fresher tires, Evans, Seville, Jenkins, Stykes and company, they're going to be just eating them up more and more and more. It's already down to inside 6 seconds now, and almost 5 now, inside 5, as both Jenkins and Seville have gotten around Greg Evans in the number 2. It's 4.7 now for Seville, who's leading the charge into number 11. But look at the host of cars he's got to get around now to try to get up there to Will Worsler. And this is all for position.
Yeah, we go on board with the number 11 machine here, Tyler Seville. He's going to the outside of the 50 of Bouchard. Bouchard had a huge slide in the number 50 FXR Pro Fish machine. Not sure if there was any contact or anything, but the number 50, huge save.
I saw that whole thing, Peter. There was no contact at all. Bouchard just with a power slide through turn 3 there. That was what I was talking about when I did the whole "ooh boy," as it looked pretty sketchy there. But meanwhile, we got a battle for the lead as we're watching this. Brian Yazik got a huge run down the backstretch, was able to get to the door of Will Worsler, but Worsler able to fend him off on the outside.
Yeah, and now we have a battle for the 3rd position. Tyler Seville on those fresh tires is marching, folks. He's marching towards the front, just got past Kelsey Rogers, last week's race winner. John Jenkins going to follow suit here in that Momentum Sim Racing's Max Pappas Innovations Toyota Camry. Greg Evans as well going to follow underneath that number 34 machine. So this freight train of cars on the fresher tires now really getting themselves up to the front. Next car in line for Tyler Seville, the 2nd place, number 55 of Brian Yazik, and at the rate he's closing in, folks, he will be there in about 3 laps. In fact, less than 3 laps, about 2.5 laps here. We've made it past the halfway mark. These drivers are now they're very close to being inside the window where we could see them come down pit road to make their final pit stop. I think the window technically will open about this lap or so, but definitely Tyler Seville on a charge in that.
And this is going to help him even more. Look at the up out the windshield. The battle is back on between Yazik and Worsler. Yazik with a slide there off of turn number 2. 4 drivers have officially loaded up for the night. Todd Kirkwood, Sam Crow, Tanner Sharp, and Brad Lee. Doug Mullins still on pit road, but has not yet loaded up to number 18. Still sitting in his pit stall after hitting the wall early. He's currently being scored now 39 laps down, but not out of the race yet. Still sitting on pit road, but meanwhile, say hello, because the drivers on the fresher tires have caught up, and John Jenkins wants to take a shot here at Tyler Seville to try to get in front of him before they make the move here. John Jenkins wants the lead back.
That number 7 machine just dropping to the inside of the racetrack. Absolutely no question. That number 7 machine is going to take the race lead here shortly. The 29 of Will Worsler, older tires, about 15 lap older tires than that number 7 machine of Jenkins. Jenkins going to drop to the inside here in turn number 1. Going to make it look easy coming out of the corner. Clears that number 29 machine. Greg Evans now going to try and get up into the 2nd position. Tyler Seville now the 3rd car in line on the fresher tires. The 29 machine of Will Worsler kind of splitting this train of vehicles right now. And just like that, Seville's going to get around his team owner, so slide him now back up into the 3rd position. Really interesting pit strategy here tonight, Greg. I was expecting, to be perfectly honest with you, I was expecting these cars on the fresher tires to really escape and get further out front, but that's not the case. They didn't get as far out as I thought they would. I mean, we talked about them being a second faster per lap. It was 15 laps that they pitted before the rest of the field, and they were only about 9 seconds in front of the likes of Greg Evans, Tyler Seville, and Jenkins. So that's definitely what's given Jenkins and Greg Evans and Tyler Seville the ability to run them down and get past them here, as we're now working lap number 77. We're well past the halfway mark. We've been caution-free for the first half of this race. Hopefully, we can stay caution-free for the remainder of the race because, folks, there is a caution-free race bounty for these drivers that have been put together by the American Sim Racing Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series administrators. Great to see that on the line each and every week. There's Craig Sykes trying to get around the lap car, the number 17 of Richard Stallings. He's currently being scored 23rd position, the first car currently being scored 1 lap down. He would be the lucky dog if a caution flag was to come out. Alex Giese in the number 77 machine, last car currently on the lead lap in P22. Greg.
Cars 1 lap down, like you mentioned, Richard Stallings, Pete Baskins, John Van Varellis, Richard Fletcher, the other Will Warsaw car, J.R. Bash, Mark Myers, the cars that are 1 lap down. Everyone else is either out of the race or, in the case of Doug Mullins, just sitting on pit road, kind of enjoying the night and seeing perhaps if he jumps back in. But meanwhile, up front, Greg Evans in the number 2 has caught up to John Jenkins.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Greg, if you could sum up the 2020 Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series and who have been the best drivers all season long up at the top of the points, these 2 drivers right here. Greg Evans, so many wins to his name this year. Been so fast and been fantastic at saving his tires. John Jenkins, I think he took the points lead after the second round of the season right here at Las Vegas and really didn't look back until right there before the playoffs begun. These 2 have just been so fast all season long, and definitely going to be great to see these 2 drivers presumably battle for the championship, assuming they can make it past Talladega, which is going to be just immense next week. There's going to be so much on the line in that race.
Yeah, set your reminders now to tune in to 3YTV here a week from tonight at the same time. This race went on the air as Mark Myers got really close to the wall there, trying to get up out of the way to let those guys through. And you talked about Jenkins and Evans being 2 of the fastest cars all year. How about the guy in 3rd, Tyler Seville? He doesn't get enough love here, I feel like, because 2 wins on the season, and it seems like no matter what, he is always in contention for the win. The luck hasn't gone his way every race this year, but he's leading the points in the Serv Pro Wheelman Showdown moving into that championship race as well after scoring a huge finish at North Wilkesboro. So Tyler Seville has been very quietly putting together a stout season. He could lock himself into the championship also with a win here.
Comes in tonight sitting in the 4th position in points. And Greg, last week at Bristol Motor Speedway, for about 2/3 of the race, it was not a Tyler Seville night. He was a lap down at one point. His number 11 machine just didn't look like it had any pace. But at the end of the race, things got a little topsy-turvy, and somehow he snuck away with a fantastic result at Bristol in a night that didn't look like it was going his way. And it's those kind of nights that you kind of go back and you look at the end of the season and go, man, that was a championship caliber run. Yes, he didn't get the checkered flag, but facing adversity, he came away with a top 10 finish, a good, strong run in a night where he was mired down in the 20s around the halfway mark. Very, very impressive last week for Tyler Seville in that comeback.
It's not the wins that win you a championship. It's what you do when you're not winning and what you can do in the face of adversity. And Tyler Seville pulled one out of his hat there with that 10th place finish. And they keep talking about, or you keep talking about moving forward with the championships as Seville trying to get up on John Jenkins now in the number 7, who is leading the way with Seville in 2nd. But you talk about, the big wins is what you reflect on when you win a championship. But if you don't win the championship, what are the ones that you look back on? It's not the last race of the year. It's the mid-pack finishes in the middle of the season that are like, man, if that had gone better, where would we be? Where would we be if this hadn't happened this week? Where would we be this week if this hadn't happened? And for Tyler Seville, that was almost one of those races last week, but he came back in a blaze of glory last week. Great effort for him last week.
Yeah, absolutely. But folks, one thing we're going to be keeping an eye on here on 3Y TV, and in about 6 laps from now, that's when I expect to see the likes of Will Worcester, Brian Yazik, Jimmy McKee, Woody Mahan head down pit road to make their final pit stop. Jenkins, Seville, Evans, we know they can go a little bit further in the run because they pitted just before the halfway mark. In fact, they can go pretty much all the way till about, I'd say about 10 laps to go here tonight, Greg. Do you think they're going to run it all the way down to 10 laps to go, or do you expect to see those drivers on pit road sooner? Do you expect to see some drivers possibly take 2 tires for that sprint to the finish? Could be some interesting strategy, especially if some of these drivers are thinking about going for broke.
I think you're going to see some guys perhaps try to go for broke here and just see what they can pull off here. It depends on how big a lead they get over these guys right here. Yazik and Worcester leading the way for those cars that pitted early as Yazik has gotten back around Worcester. Then they've been kind of battling back and forth. They're a ways ahead of Jimmy McKee now, who, by the way, solid run for Jimmy McKee, playoff driver in 7th spot right now, plus 10 positions in the McKee Lawn Care Chevy Camaro. He's the one back behind these guys 4 positions, and McKee is looking, there he is, in the number 8 for a spot in the championship race. Still a playoff driver, quiet run, doing what he needs to do, stay out of trouble and just keep the nose clean on the number 8, and he's done exactly that.
Yeah, that championship round is going to be very, very impressive. Rockingham, Texas Motor Speedway, Martinsville, and Phoenix to round out the season. The American Regardless Championship Finale 200, and a week before that, the Surf Pro Wheelman Showdown Championship Finale at Martinsville. There's some big races left this year. Of course, Falcon Race Wraps 250 next week. The Slice Pizza Bar Rockingham 150. I absolutely love Rockingham Speedway. That's in 2 weeks from tonight, October 13th, right here on 3Y TV, same place, same time. Definitely going to be some fantastic races to end up this season. I'll tell you what, as a driver, the tracks that fit my driving style the most, Greg, are really those final 4 races: Rockingham, Texas, Martinsville, and Phoenix. If I'm one of these drivers, I would be circling those on my personal calendar. I'm really looking forward to the end of the season.
I'm looking forward to watching it all unfold right here on 3Y TV. The championship round just 2 weeks away, but we got to get through the rest of this one and Talladega to determine who those 4 drivers running it out for the championships are. As Jenkins continues to lead, we're on board right now with Greg Evans, who sits in 3rd. These 4 drivers have really stayed together this entire run, Peter. Ever since the pit stop cycle, these 4 have been right there with each other. But lap traffic is beginning to creep up for your race leaders who we're watching right now: Jenkins, Seville, Evans, and Stykes. Remember, Craig Stykes is not a playoff driver, but he is showing that form that we saw back in July and August, where it felt like every week we were talking about, is this the week that Craig Stykes breaks through and gets that 2nd win of the season after the Talladega victory earlier this season? Stykes looking back in that form we saw him in earlier. Could he break through here tonight?
Yeah, Sykes comes into tonight back in the 19th position in points. Of course, he hasn't run a full season. Kind of not been super hot as of late, going all the way back to Daytona when we were there in early August, with 20th, 19th, and 7th position being his last 3 races. Definitely trying to get back up into the top 5 here tonight with a solid run. Look at Greg Evans running right up against the outside retaining wall in that Freightliner number 2 machine. Craig Sykes running just a little bit lower. Great to see different racing lines employed here tonight, Greg. We talk about iRacing sometimes being kind of one-dimensional, a single groove racetrack, but here we're seeing some drivers down on the bottom, we're seeing some drivers in the middle groove, and even the 2 machine that last time by all the way up by the outside retaining wall in 1 and 2.
And Peter, what if you were in the driver's seat, what would you be doing if you were in there? Would you be running around the top? Would you be running the bottom? Or would you kind of be doing what Tyler Seville's doing right now, just trying to hang in there with John Jenkins and try to get your nose in front once in a while for some clean air, but kind of just base what you're doing off what he's doing.
As a race car driver, typically, especially with how big of a hole these Cup cars punch in the air, you usually have a tendency to get aero tight. So depending on how your car's driving is really how you decide to race the racetrack. If your car's loose by itself in clean air, you might want to be tucked up behind a race car as we have a side-by-side battle for the race lead. But if your car is tight, then you want to get some clean air on the nose. You want to, use that high line. You want to use that low line just to get that clean air and get all that downforce. As we have seen a couple of pit stops. There's the number 29 machine, Will Warsler. He came down pit road a couple laps ago. There's the number 84, Woody Mahan. He has also been on and off pit road. There's the 41 of Tim Nutt getting himself back up to speed as we now just have 38 laps to go. Meanwhile, up at the front, side-by-side battle for the race lead. The 7 of Jenkins, the 11 of Seville. Jenkins fought off that number 11 machine, but now Greg Evans is starting to poke himself up there into the second spot in the number 2 machine. So 2 for 2 in Greg Evans' machine. I'll tell you what, another thing about Greg Evans here tonight, Greg, is that he's going for win number 11, which is 1 and 1, which is Snake Eyes.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely Greg Evans could get win number 11 in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series season here tonight. That's just an immense number, Greg. I don't think we were expecting anyone at the beginning of the season to quite have that many wins, but Evans has been so impressive, has shown that he's able to save tires as Richard Fletcher there bouncing off the outside wall, letting the leaders on by. He's being scored in the 21st position. He's going to be the first car now 2 laps down. The first car 1 lap down right now is actually the number 29 machine of Will Warsler. If the caution flag was to come out, he'd be back on the lead lap thanks to the lucky dog, but like I had mentioned, he has recently come down pit road, and here comes Jimmy McKee in the number 8 machine, as well as Kelsey Rogers in the number 34. They both peel off the racing surface to get to pit road. Pit road speed 50 miles an hour, 5-0, and McKee and Rogers doing a great job of getting to pit road. Both of those drivers kind of racing one another to get to their pit boxes. There you see McKee pulls off, and now the 34 machine also going to find his pit crew as they go to work on those race cars. We'll see them back on the racetrack shortly. AJ Digby has also come on and off pit road in that number 14 machine. But going to be interesting to see how this all plays out here. And Greg, you said someone else was on pit road?
Yeah, Adam Gursky, another playoff driver on pit road as well. He's down and away in the number 69, the Beef Jerky Cheesecakes entry. He came down on that same lap as McKee and Rogers. Remember, he finished second at Bristol last week to Kelsey Rogers, looking for some momentum because Jersky was in a position that he, with a good finish here tonight, if he can pull one off, he could almost be Dega proof on points if he has a good enough race here tonight.
Yeah, great run out of that Beef Jerky number 69 machine last week at Dega. Of course, those last few laps were a little bit crazy, but Jersky able to sneak through for his best finish of the season. In fact, his only podium so far this year in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series, and he's back out there on the racetrack. Meanwhile, back up at the front of the field, that number 7 machine trying to do the Vegas double this year, got win way back at the beginning of the year here at Las Vegas. Started off the season in race number 2 with a win. It was definitely gave this number 7 Momentum Sim Racing machine a lot of momentum. So it was a very aptly named team as he works his way there around the racetrack here in the setting sun here. Great to see the day tonight to transition here in the iRacing service. Of course, a relatively new feature versus how old the service is, and the track conditions do change here. So let's see if we can bring up the weather graphic there in the left-hand corner of the screen. Current track temperature down to 72 degrees Fahrenheit as the 2 of Greg Evans going to look to the inside of the number 7 of John Jenkins. The 2 trying to get to the race lead as the 11 and the 57 going to come down pit road. 2 of the Will Warsler Racing teammates both peeling off at the same time with one another.
And they had to get it wound down real quick there, Peter. So I'll be keeping my eye on that as well for perhaps speeding penalties, as we got a side-by-side battle for the lead between John Jenkins, who was Mr. Consistency in the regular season, led the points for 24 races before getting passed on the last race by the guy who's right behind him, Greg Evans, who 10 wins on the year, going back to Darlington for the most recent win, the opening round of the playoffs in that number 2. And boy, Peter, here's something we don't talk about a whole lot with Greg Evans. How many other races were coulda, woulda, shouldas with Greg Evans that something went wrong with that number 2 and he didn't get the result he was looking for, a second, a third, or crashed out? He was leading laps in just about every single race. This could have been a dominating season by unimaginable proportions had all those finishes that Evans didn't win come together, all those seconds and thirds and nights he led the most laps, but had something happen on track.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Chicagoland, Kentucky, both of those races, that number 2 machine, very, very quick. But speaking of woulda, coulda, shouldas, Tyler Seville in the number 11 machine woulda, coulda, shoulda gotten in his pit box nice and neatly. However, he slid through the pit box. He had to throw the car in reverse and lost a little bit of time. He actually got leapfrogged under that pit stop sequence by the number 57 of Craig Stykes. So that will definitely not be all too good for that number 11 machine as these laps continue to wind down. Here goes the number 2 machine up at the front as the 24 machine sits on pit road. Greg Evans here back to the inside. And Greg, this is probably the best run we've seen out of that number 2 machine here tonight to try and get to the race lead.
But Jenkins fights back on the outside in the number 7. Great job on defense by Jenkins for the last 20 or so laps, trying to fend off Greg Evans. And Tyler Seville was up there as well at one point. Right now, only 3 cars, Peter, on the lead lap. Jenkins, Evans, look who's sitting in third right now. War Turtle Racing's Jay Crable in the number 87. We don't get to talk about him a whole lot because he hasn't run a whole lot lately. Here he is late in the race, up in the 3rd spot, getting some TV time for War Turtle Racing tonight.
Yeah, then the 2 machine, Greg Evans, peeling off the racetrack. He's going to come down pit road. That leaves John Jenkins out there. Sorry to cut from you there, Jay, in that War Turtle Racing machine. But that number 2 machine, Evans, great job peeling off onto pit road. Now John Jenkins out there. He is going to have to come down pit road here quickly, Greg. You would think so. Evans getting into his pit box nice and neatly. Did not overshoot his pit box like we saw out of the number 11 machine of Tyler Seville.
Jenkins is coming.
Yep, he is coming. Oh, man, that was a very late lunge.
Yeah, he could have missed the commitment cone if he wasn't careful there. So Jenkins getting all that he could out of that number 7 car. Closing stages here at Las Vegas, and much like the last round of pit stops, Jenkins waited an extra lap before the rest of the competition came down and went out. Jenkins went 1 extra lap after them, so both times Jenkins doing the same move here.
And one thing about Greg Evans this season is the fact that he's been absolutely fantastic getting on and off pit road. I mean, we've heard it from Will Worcester that Greg Evans somehow figures out a way to get on to pit road better than any other driver and get off pit road better than any other driver. That number 2 machine here, we're going to have to pan to the number 7 machine of Jenkins. Will Jenkins stay in front of the number 2 of Evans? Will he lose that position? Coming out of turn number 2 right now, Jenkins is now back up on the racetrack. Greg Evans in the number 2 machine. They're going to be very, very close, but I think Jenkins in the 7 is just going to hold on to that spot. Look at the number 34, Kelsey Rogers. He's going to kind of box in Greg Evans, but Evans here going to jump to the bottom side of the racetrack, going to go all the way down to the grass down there, gets a little bit of airtime there. The left front just shot up into the air briefly there on Evans. He was able to come back down to earth. But this is a battle here potentially, Greg, for what might be the race lead as the 17 of Stallings gets loose right in front of Greg Evans. Evans goes up the racetrack to avoid the number 17 machine, who was all up out of shape there coming out of turn number 2. Not the first time that's happened to Stallings here tonight. Definitely not been the night Stallings was hoping for. But now the number 7, John Jenkins, up front of the number 2 machine. Jay Crable is your current race leader in the War Turtle Racing, number 87. Jason Stewart currently sitting in second. Third position right now is Will Worcester, although he's trying to take that spot away from, Craig Stykes taking that spot away from Will Worcester. So Stykes and Seville going to get past Worcester, so move him back all the way to 5th position. He will soon fall into the clutches of Woody Mahan, Brian Yazik, and company. Slightly older tires on the number 29 machine, but Greg Evans is all the way up into the 8th position. John Jenkins in 7th in the number 7 machine. Remember, they're on fresher tires. They're trying to get themselves back up to the front.
I'm keeping my eye also on the number 87 of Crable, the race leader. You see him on screen right now for War Turtle Racing. One win on the year for War Turtle Racing that came back with Nick Curling at Infineon. Jay Crable, I don't think he's going to be able to make it the rest of the way, but he's going to go as long as he can. And who knows, if he catches a caution, everyone else is going to be, hey, we got one more set of tires on pit road, might as well use them or lose them. Jay Crable, I think he's hoping to catch a caution here before he either runs out of fuel or gets caught by Craig Sykes. Crable's going to give it all he's got, rolling the dice big time here at Las Vegas. Steve Crable can hold on to that number 87 and just how long he can. But Stykes and Seville, the Worcester teammates, are closing in.
Yeah, a little bit of news coming out of the War Turtle Racing camp here recently that the number 28 machine of Troy Haight will be leaving that camp for next season. He'll be going back to his own team. Troy Haight here tonight currently running in the 20th position in the P&N water filters machine. There you see the number 24 flash on by. That's Alan Young being scored right now in 18th. He is not having the night he was looking for here tonight, Greg. One of your playoff drivers, Adam Jersky, just 2 positions better than him in the 16th spot in the Beef Jersky's Cheesecake machine. So those 2 cars, yes, they're trying to work their way up through the field on slightly fresher tires with their pit strategy, but definitely not the night they were planning for here. They're definitely going to have a good race at Talladega and have things fall in their favor. Meanwhile, up at the front, Jay Crable's lead is shrinking quite rapidly because Craig Stykes and Tyler Seville are closing in on him. You can see right there about a second per lap right now that Crable's losing. So you do the math. That's about 4.5 laps or so until we will see a battle for the race lead, assuming Crable elects to stay out for the next 4 laps. Greg, we kind of thought that maybe Crable could go about 5 to 6 more laps from here, but I do expect to see Crable on pit road with about 10 laps to go. So we know he can't go all the way to the end here tonight.
Yeah, but he's going to go as long as he physically can until that motor starts sputtering because he's trying to catch a caution right now. That's what he's doing right now. He's leading the way, trying to catch a caution to bring that number 87 to pit road under the yellow flag with everybody else still behind him because they don't want to give him an advantage to have a long enough run on those fresh tires to try to slice through the field. So Crable's hoping to catch a caution before Stykes gets to the back bumper of him in his beautiful number 87 entry.
Yeah, and I'm sure Jay Crable's thinking, all right, we haven't had a caution-free race in forever. Where's the caution? It's going to come out, right? But definitely that number 87 machine continues to lead the way here, but we'll have to make a pit stop. Meanwhile, the battle for the 3rd position, folks, is heating up because John Jenkins is there, and the 11 of Tyler Seville might have tried to throw a little bit of a block, but he got loose. Here comes Jenkins in that Max Pappas Innovations machine, and one driver that you're not seeing.
Coming. Here comes Crable on the pit road. This is going to be for the lead right now.
And now John Jenkins, that's going to put him up into 2nd, right behind Craig Stykes. Not anymore. He's going to dive down to the bottom side of the racetrack and take the race lead. And look at the 2 machine of Greg Evans. Last time we saw him, he was right on the back bumper of the number 7 machine. He's lost a little bit of ground to the number 7 of John Jenkins. But nonetheless, Evans able to get by the number 11 of Seville. He's now up into 3rd. His eyes now set on the 57 of Stykes, who has a big wiggle coming out of turn number 4. Evans going to get a run here down the front stretch, just a little bit too far back, but I expect to see him try a lunge here into turn number 1. He thought better of it, stays right behind that number 57 machine, but it's just all for naught because you saw the 57 there slide up the racetrack a little bit coming out of turn number 2. Evans gets underneath him. This is the battle for second. Now Evans can set his sights back on John Jenkins.
And Jenkins, remember, the winner here back in the spring, has been very strong all night long, and here he is leading the way. There's going to be 10 laps to go this time by. 11 on the ticket right now. 10 to go this time by when they cross the line for John Jenkins. Oh, one car in the wall. That was JR Bash getting up in the wall in the 4. Oh boy, that got close there for a second.
And let's see if we can go back just a little bit on 3-wide TV replay. Coming out of turn number 2, Greg Evans had a big slide. He lost quite a bit of time to that number 7 machine. You couldn't really see it from that angle, but there was definitely a wiggle out of the 2 machine. And now he finds himself quite a ways behind the number 7 machine. Let's see if we can see it from the onboard cam here going through turn number 1 and 2, and you could just see that, yep, right there. He's still trying to save it. You could see that back end wiggle twice. That wheel just kind of loosen up. You can see the grip and kind of straighten the wheel back up. So now all of a sudden, John Jenkins up to a 1.2 second lead here with now just 9 laps to go. Craig Stykes in 3rd, Tyler Seville in 4th, Brian Yazik, great run for him. He's in 5th. He's about 5 seconds right now behind Tyler Seville. Will Worser down in 6th. Woody Mahan, great run for the Mahan Speed Laboratories, number 84 here tonight, running in 7th. Jimmy McKee, Kelsey Rogers, and Michael Krobach running at your top 10 with just 9 laps to go. 8 laps to go this time by.
How big is this for Jimmy McKee in the number 8 to get a top 10 here if this holds true, because he is a playoff driver and he's one of those guys who was hoping for a good run here to get himself in a good position. That's how they go. Oh, was that Greg Evans who just caught the wall in the 2?
That will be the end of Greg Evans's run for the win here tonight. Contact with the number 50 of Christopher Bouchard. Let's see if we can go back and see this one on the replay. Yes, to answer your question, Greg, it was Greg Evans in the outside wall, and you see that contact, and that's significant. That was some heavy contact with the outside wall. Greg Evans, the good news is he still has quite a bit of ground on the 5th place machine, but he went in one fell swoop from 2nd back to 4th.
And the problem for Evans, yes, he does have a lot of ground, but it's going to go away in a big hurry because that number 2 is not up to snuff right now as far as the rest of the field goes. He is off the pace that the rest of the field is setting. Brian Yazik is going to be able to eat this up in a hurry. He's already closing. Brian Yazik can smell the blood in the water right now. He's got about 6 laps now to try to get up there and get around Greg Evans. That is huge. He's a second faster right now, 4 seconds out. Needs 6 laps. I think he's going to be able to catch up to him.
And remember, Yazik is one of those playoff drivers. Tyler Seville, one of those playoff drivers in the number 11 machine. There in 3rd, he got around Evans. That could be important. Every point matters here, folks. Every single position at the end of this round next week at Talladega, when that checkered flag drops, we could be looking at 1-2 points separating the difference between making it into the final round and being eliminated. We saw that between the round of 12 and the round of 8. We saw Michael Krobach being eliminated by just a fraction of a good run. Just 1 point separating Krobach. And I think it was Adam Jersky who just squeaked in there at the Roval. Every point matters here, Greg, and there's nothing really Evans can do now. He's just going to have to keep the foot in it and hope that he can hold off Brian Yazik for the 4th position.
It's about a second back, and we're in the closing stages. Yazik has caught up to him. This is the battle on screen for 2nd between the Wursler teammates Seville and Stykes, but Brian Yazik has caught Greg Evans, and going into turn 1, Brian Yazik is going to get the spot and go. The most consistent driver in these playoffs, Brian Yazik, picks up another crucial spot.
Yeah, but Yazek will be very thankful for that spot as well. He gets himself up into 4th. Will Worsler now, he's about 2 seconds back behind the number 2 machine of Greg Evans. Here we are on board with that number 29 machine. Now we only have 2 laps to go, so Worsler here going to really have to hustle. Remember, he's on older tires as well, so he's going to have to do double duty here to try and take that spot. But John Jenkins, folks, in the number 7 Max Pappas Innovations machine, he's working his way out of turn number 4 right now. White flag is in the air. Oh, Will Worsler in the number 29
And the
machine.
caution's out!
What?
The caution came out
events.
about 150 yards short of the finish line to take the white flag. Will Worsler, playoff driver. What happened here? Oh.
The number 4 machine of J.R. Bash, the Center Point Outfitters machine, making contact there with Will Worsler down the backstretch. We're going to have to see this one from the helicopter cam. Let's see if we can put this one in slow motion so we can kind of really figure out what's happened. The 4 machines up near the wall, and then it looks like the 4 of J.R. Bash. Whoa! The 29 machine up and over, luckily landing on all 4 wheels. But Will Worsler here, definitely not what he wants to have happen. He's going to be back in 15th position. Let's see if we can slow this down. Yeah, here we go. In slow motion here with a little bit of the helicopter cam action. The number 4 is up near the wall. Greg, I think he might have been afraid that he might have been going towards the wall. And then you can see that gap growing from the wall to the car below him. Maybe the 29 machine's coming up, kind of expecting Bash to be up near the wall, but Bash definitely clearly comes down multiple car lengths into the side of the number 29 Slice Porcupines machine. And one of your playoff drivers, Will Worsler, going up and over here. We were literally probably about 2 football fields away from the checkered flag, or excuse me, the white flag, and there wouldn't have been a caution had they have gotten the white flag, because once you see the white flag, the only flag to come out would be the checkered flag. Boy, oh boy, what a turn of events here at the end of the race. And of course, we mentioned here tonight the caution-free race bounty. Poof.
Came up about 150 yards short. And Peter, remember, Bristol did not go the way Will Worsler wanted it to. Now this is going to drop him well outside the top 10 once it's all said and done. Peter, Will Worsler is now in must-win territory in Talladega next week.
Are definitely going to need a lot of help at Talladega next week. Let's see if we can bring up the point standings coming into tonight to show you how crazy this is. Because Will Worsler came in tonight on the outside looking in. His name was red, 3 markers out. Well, now after this, he's going to be way, way back going into Talladega. He's currently being scored in the 13th position. Good news, folks, is he is still on the lead lap in that number 29 machine. The bad news is a lot of damage. I mean, he went up and over in that Slice Porcupines machine. There he is. You see all that damage on that car. And Greg, granted, it doesn't look too bad for considering that thing just flipped upside down on the backstretch. Will's got to be probably pretty livid underneath the helmet.
Oh, you can see the steam coming out of the cockpit right now of the number 29 green, scored in 16th position. Trying to get up and get a top 5 finish out of it, and to have that happen, that's got to be a heartbreaker. Greg Evans back in 15th, right alongside him for this restart, as he's going to be up there, or back there as well after the hit to the wall. He stayed on to get some of that damage repaired. We'll reset here your top 5 for this restart. First of 3 green-white checkered attempts. It's John Jenkins, the spring winner here, leading the way. Tyler Seville, Craig Stykes, Brian Yazek, Jimmy McKee in the top 5 now. Top 5 all playoff drivers, but for McKee, or actually, excuse me, 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 5th playoff drivers. And for McKee, how big is that?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, what about Craig Stykes there in the number 57 machine? We saw spoiler last week at Bristol when the number 34 machine of Kelsey Rogers was able to play spoiler. Could Craig Stykes play spoiler here tonight at Las Vegas? Could we see no drivers locked in when we get to Talladega next week? We're just going to have to wait and find out. Now, we have 3 attempts at a green-white checker here in the American Sim Racing Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. And Greg, cautions breed cautions.
And it's on because this is playoffs, baby. This is a spot in the championship round on the line for 4 of these top 5 cars to try to lock themselves in to the championship round. Adam Jersky, the number 69, the highest finishing driver at Bristol last week, he's up in the top 10 all of a sudden. He, of the playoff drivers, is being scored 4th now. He's trying to recover. Alan Young, haven't talked about him a whole lot so far tonight. He is up in 12th now. So a lot of drivers who are on the outside looking in, coming into tonight, suddenly have a shot to really make up some ground. 3 attempts at the green-white checker. We're coming to the first one, Peter. It's about to get crazy.
Pace truck about to head down pit road, race in the hands of the number 7 machine. John Jenkins came up just a little bit short last week at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Will he get the checkered flag this week? He's on the loud pedal, green flag waving here once again, Las Vegas. 2 laps to go. The first attempt at a green-white checker, and that number 7 machine already out to a pretty big lead. They're dicing it up midfield, 2 and 3 wide back there. The number 7 of Jenkins liking what he's seeing out the back of his rear view mirror. That number 7 gonna have a couple car lengths advantage going off into turn number 3. White flag gonna be in the air this time. Will we get to see the white flag this time? Only time will find out, because here comes the number 11, Tyler Seville, one of your playoff drivers. 1 lap to go.
Made it to the line. Tyler Seville with a run on the outside. Seville trying to get the run. Watch for the big run on exit off the backstretch. Jenkins very smart there to go up and try to take the momentum away from Seville, but that leaves the inside open. Drag race down the backstretch into turn 3 for a win and a shot in the finals.
Tyler Seville, the number 11 machine. He did the over-under. He gets loose coming out of the corner. The 7, the 11. Oh my goodness, the 11 going up into the wall. And Craig Stykes goes to victory lane at Vegas. What a crazy finish.
Craig Stykes, AJ Digby 2nd, Kelsey Rogers 3rd, Woody Mahan, Jimmy McKee, the highest finishing playoff driver in 5th.
Have you ever, Greg?
Ever.
What a finish. The 11 and the 7 machine were racing oh so hard. We'll see this one on the replay. The 11 on the inside gets a little loose right there. The 7 machine goes up the racetrack to try and make the pass. The 11 machine tries to throw a block, but they're into the outside wall. Look at the 55 of Yazik trying to squeak on through, but he gets involved. The 11 heavy up into the wall. AJ Digby says, I've been doing some rallycross racing. I'm just going to go down here in the grass. And he's going to get up into 2nd. Kelsey Rogers, your winner from last week at Bristol, finishing in 3rd. Woody Mahan in 4th. Jimmy McKee rounding out your top 5. Greg, this is going to be a finish we're going to be talking about here on 3 Wide TV for a long time. The 7 machine, John Jenkins, goes from 2nd to 20th in a matter of a quarter of a lap. Just completely nuts.
Unbelievable, Peter. And how about Jimmy McKee? The margin between him and Brian Yazik for the top 5 and the highest finishing playoff spot, that's huge moving forward. We'll explain after the break. Margin 11, 1,000th of a second. McKee beat Yazik back to the line for 5th, the top 5 and that playoffs point.
Seth Olson in the chat has me chuckling here, Greg. He says everyone got their cheesecake taken away. I'll tell you what, that was dropping the cheesecake if I've ever seen one. But man,
drop
the 57
cheesecake. It's white chocolate raspberry. You can't drop the cheesecake.
And somehow that man right there, Craig Stykes, gonna walk away. And really, your top 3 finishers, they're not playoff drivers. Your top 4 finishers, they're not playoff drivers. That caution there, with just a few laps to go, changed absolutely everything. But folks, we're going to take a breath here on 3 Wide TV. We're going to sort everything out, and we'll be right back with a quick word from your top 3 finishers. What a crazy one here tonight.
Every day in business starts with a number. Output, productivity, efficiency, all measured in numbers, because data drives decisions. And if fire or water damage strikes, the numbers for your business can slow or even stop. Unless you know this one, 1-800-SERVPRO, the #1 choice in commercial cleanup and restoration.
Welcome to Sliced Pizza Bar, where we're passionate about great pizza. All of our food is made fresh daily using only the finest ingredients and techniques. Our chefs put their heart and soul into each pie, and we're sure you'll taste the difference. Located on both Indian Rocks and Madeira beaches, chances are we're right around the corner for your next pizza night or dinner date. Come give us a try and experience the slice difference.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real-world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where I'll tell you what there, Greg, it was a little bit like playing a game of craps there at the end. And some drivers got through, some drivers didn't. Some drivers struck complete gold. They won the jackpot. And I think we're about to find out just how it worked out for this man right here, Jimmy McKee. He's one of those drivers who might not have won the jackpot per se, but he squeaked through, and look at this. Car spinning in front of him. There goes the number of 11 of Seville up to the outside wall. Oh my, just
now,
barely.
Here's what I want to talk about with this. Look at the 8 of Jimmy McKee. That number 55 of Brian Yozik, that pass right there was for the highest finishing playoff drivers. So, of the playoff drivers tonight, Jimmy McKee gets the most points out of that. And look up there at the top of the screen, just under the ticker, you can kind of see the black and teal hood of Adam Jersky, who finished the highest finishing playoff driver last week at Bristol. He sneaks through another top 10, third highest finishing playoff driver. The banner's not yellow on that 69 car, but he is still in the playoffs. Peter, he might be one of the highest scored playoff drivers heading into Talladega. He is in a really good position. Let's take another look as we see the incident here.
Yeah, and man, it's such a hard thing. I mean, the 7 and the 11 just racing so hard. They're trying to get through to the final round to go for the championship. And we saw the 11 get loose. He was wicked loose. The number 7 machine, could he have backed out of it? Yes. Did he want to back out of it? No. You see the 11. There he is. He's getting loose. He's sawing on the wheel. And the 7 moves up to the right rear quarter panel, and Seville just naturally kind of drifts up the racetrack. That's a racing incident for me there, Greg. 2 drivers going hard at the end. The 11's down there. He's loose. He's trying to save the car. The 7's trying to get a run on the high side. And 2 cars just ending up in, the same spot on the racetrack. As you see Jay Crable there in the War Turtle Racing Machine just squeaking on through. He scored with a 10th place run here tonight. Here we go on board with the 11. See him get loose here. Oh, here we go, back with the 87. We'll get one more look at this as he squeaks through.
Okay.
Was it the number 11 machine that he just squeaked by there on the high side?
So. I saw the Slice logo there. Watch.
You just don't even see
Watch
the
to
11
right.
machine at this point. Oh, there
There
he goes
is up
into
there.
the
You
outside
can see
wall.
the flash of green in the wall. And watch. He hits the wall, spins down, and gets through.
Look at the number 24 machine of Alan Young, one of those playoff drivers. He hits the number 11 machine square in the door. Boom. But the 24 able to a little bit of
He
work
had the
on
momentum
through.
to get through.
And he helped the 11 get across the start-finish line in that whole deal. John Jenkins in the number 7 machine fell all the way to the last car on the lead lap. And remember, Greg, before that yellow flag flew, before the attempt at the green-white checker, he was probably about 4 or 5 football fields away from seeing the white flag, in which case no caution flag would have come out. What a crazy finish to the race, and that's going to set up a wild race at Talladega next week. Folks, if you're in the chat, make sure you join us next week, because after this one, I don't exactly know what to expect at Talladega. We're going to have a fun one here, Greg. But we do have some more work to do here tonight, Mr. Rentz. We have to interview the top 3 finishers. And why don't you take it away with tonight's 3rd place finisher, last week's race winner, Kelsey Rogers in the number 35 machine there, Greg.
Yeah, Kelsey Rogers, Greg Rentz, 3YTV. Man, a win last week at Bristol. And then whatever in the heck you want to call what just happened there. What was your take on that? What did you see coming to the finish there?
I saw some cars in the front hit and then scatter. I hit the brakes as hard as I could, and that was all that saved me. Otherwise, I probably would have lost a few more spots too. But I guess it's fun to watch. I'm not sure if that's racing or not, but yeah, we'll get lucky and take 3rd tonight.
Yeah, Kelsey, boy, the last 2 races have been astounding for you. A win last week at Bristol, now a 3rd here tonight. And you had kind of a quiet night, hanging in and out of the top 10 pretty much all night, getting up there towards the end, making runs. And then all of a sudden, when it feels like it's all over, the caution comes out late in the race. And all of a sudden, the entire complexion of the race changes. What goes through your head when you've been green for 133 laps, coming to start the final lap, and the caution comes out? What goes through your head at that point?
I mean, it seems to be a trend that whenever that happens in iRacing, and whether it's a fixed race or an open race or a league race or whatever, the longer the green run and then that green-white checkered comes out at the end, you pretty much know that something bad's going to happen.
Well, Kelsey, speaking of something bad going to happen, from a race that saw that kind of finish to a race next week where you can expect just about what we saw in that last lap, just about every lap of the way. We're going to Talladega next week. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's kind of just more of what we saw tonight. Whoever is going to be in the right spot at the last lap is probably going to win the race. I mean, with the aero package we have now, tonight was kind of just a train. It was kind of hard to pass. So I think next week, at least we'll be able to get next to each other.
All right, Kelsey, 2nd week in a row you're on the podium. So a 2nd week in a row you get to thank your sponsors. Who you got?
Yep, no sponsors on board right now, but I know my dad's watching, so shout out to him and Jimmy and Cody, my teammates. So, and you guys for broadcasting. Good job.
Kelsey Rogers, winner last week at Bristol, 3rd here tonight in Vegas. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
All right, well, I have made my way down to a very grassy number 14 machine of AJ Digby. And AJ, when everything all happened out front, you're kind of pulling a little bit of Fernando Matos there for every one of those 3-wide TV watchers here who've followed us closely. A little bit of rally crossing as well going on there. Tell us a little bit about the craziness that happened right there coming to the checkered flag.
Yeah, so it kind of all started on the restart. I got a pretty good jump on the inside line, just kind of following everybody on the inside, and I think the car on my outside missed a shift or something, which created a lot of room for me to be able to do whatever I wanted to do. So I went to the outside and was able to get past 2 cars that got loose on the bottom, and then was able to go below Kelsey there to essentially take 5th through 3 and 4. And I was like, coming out of the corner, hey, I'm gonna get a top 5. I'm gonna end up 5th here. Like, that's a good day. And felt really bad for Tyler and Brian and John and everybody that happened up front, but as soon as I saw cars wrecking and the way that they bounced off, there was no way I was going to get around it other than to just turn left and cut through the grass. So I turned on my lawn care services, and I'm going to send a bill to Las Vegas to pay me back for that. But just cut through the grass and tried to be on the gas as much as I could, but also keep it straight and cut back up onto the track right before crossing the start finish line. And for a second there, I thought it was going to end up being a 1-2-3 for us, and then Tyler just couldn't corral it, and iRacing physics knocked him back to 14th or wherever he ended. So that was weird. But yeah, the 14 car was fast today. I really made a judgment error and waited too long on that first stop to go to pit lane, and that really hurt me in the end because I didn't expect a full green race there up until the very end. So I was expecting there would be a caution at some point, and had ran that first stint a little bit longer, and it was a little bit too long. The undercut people worked out a lot better for them and took a lot of total time off of their race. So at that point, I was kind of playing catch up, just trying to end up in the top 10, and the caution ended up working out for me. Did not work out for a lot of others, and I personally would have enjoyed a ending on a green flag run because that's how the racing goes. But hey, you take what's given to you, and the caution was given to me, and I was able to capitalize.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I'll tell you what, a strong run here tonight. Next week, Talladega, super speedway action. What are your thoughts about going to the high banks of Dega?
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one, and I told some people that were watching me racing that it was fun when we did Daytona a couple weeks ago or whenever that was, because that was my first time really doing a restrictor plate race with more than like one teammate and having multiple people that I am around and can race around, and being able to work in a group is important. And you obviously see it in the Cup Series all the time, and I was able to do that really for the first time at Daytona, and it was a lot of fun. Just kind of hung back towards the back, dodged a couple wrecks, and then at the end when it mattered, I was up in the fight of it until Jenkins blew his engine. So I'm excited to try to turn that around and make it work at Talladega as well, and hopefully end up with a top 10. At this point, I'm obviously not in the championship, so I'm just trying to have clean races and put together strong finishes and kind of solidify my place here in this league.
Well, already picking up one win this season back at Iowa and runner-up here tonight. Definitely a strong run for that number 14 machine. AJ, before I let you go, you got any shout-outs for us?
Yeah, as always, got to shout out my cousin, Kevin Vollmer, who does my paints. This Turn Racing Sim Tools car was really fast tonight, and really just didn't have a chance to show it there until the end. Got to thank you guys for the broadcast. Obviously, I so much enjoy going back and watching those replays, and that's kind of how I got into this league in the first place, is because I did a couple broadcasts with you guys. So that really got me started into here, and always thank you guys for what you do here for the league. And then Jim and Sam and everybody running in the league to put on the great racing and nearly a full green flag race here today. And then everybody who's watching, my family, friends, everybody who supports me, my fiance Savannah, and then everybody who even supports other drivers. Just having some sort of fan presence and people who are watching is always awesome and great to see as a driver. So yeah, looking forward to next week, but thank you guys for everything you do, and we'll move along. And congrats to Craig, Kelsey, and everybody else on the great race, and Craig on the win.
Yeah, absolutely. Savannah was in the chat earlier trying to say hopefully AJ can pick up win number 2. Didn't quite pan out for you, AJ. Just one spot short, but nonetheless, a fantastic run here tonight. And we'll see you next week at Talladega, and happy early birthday.
Thank you very much.
All right, folks. Well, that is tonight's runner-up, the number 14 of AJ Digby. And I believe that Mr. Greg Rance has found his way to victory lane here in the infield there. Greg with the number 57 of Craig Sykes.
Craig Sykes, man, oh man. We were talking about it on the broadcast a couple times. back in July or in parts of August, it seemed like every single week you were running up front. It was just a matter of time. That win was coming. That win was coming. Then we lost you for a couple weeks. Came back. Hasn't quite been going well for you. But tonight, you were back in form, getting the pole. And then, man, that finish, though, tell us about that. What happened there to get your second win of the season?
It was a lot of excitement. I'm glad I'm in victory lane because there's lots of fighting going on in the pits. So I'm in a safe place. I don't know, man. It just a lot of chaos going on. People driving hard. iRacing, NASCAR, whoever you want to blame for the package we got just makes it where you're flat footing and draft fest, Talladega every week. And so that's what you get. It's hard racing. And, these guys, honestly, they do a really good job. If you venture out into the official stuff, you figure out how terrible the racing can actually be. So to come here and go as long as we did to not have a caution was pretty fun. But I just kind of cruising around. Honestly, didn't think I had a chance on winning. I kind of try to stay out of the championship drivers' way a little bit, but honestly, not really. They always say the championship drivers, everybody watch out for them, but I'm always, no, you watch out for me. I'm the idiot that don't have nothing to lose. So,
well, Craig, walk us through a little bit what you saw out the windshield coming to that checkered flag, because you were hanging back there. You were in third or fourth, just hanging back, trying to watch your teammate go for the win, and then all of a sudden, everything changed in the blink of an eye. Tell us about it.
Well, I ain't gonna say I expected it, because obviously Tyler and John are two of the best in the series. That's why they're fighting for a championship. But like I said, with the style of racing we have, you have to, kind of expect something might happen. And I seen Tyler jump to the bottom down the back stretch, and he had a run on John, and he went around him, and it looked like he got loose. I mean, he's obviously. It's last lap of the race, so lifting is probably out of the question. And he just drove it hard and looked like he got a little loose, and John jumped to his outside, and they touched and gave me the win.
Well, Craig, you got the win here tonight. Next week, we're going to Talladega. By the way, you did something very, very similar to what you did tonight last time we were at Talladega. Are you excited for a chance to go try and sweep the season and get win number 3?
Sure, especially at that track. I mean, I'm a non-playoff driver, so bring on Talladega. I don't have nothing to lose. We'll try to qualify up front, and we'll push and shove, and see if we can get another win.
All right, Craig, a long time coming for you to get win number 2 tonight. You did it here at Las Vegas. Hit the jackpot. Who do you want to thank? Who got you here?
Perky Pints Slice Pizza Bar on the car. Everybody at Will Worsler Racing. They get to do a lot of practicing. I don't get to do a whole lot, so I kind of just jump in here, and I got to do at least a couple official races this week. Usually I jump in with no practice, so got to do a couple official races with them, and it was a lot of fun, and just glad I got some fun guys to hang out with, and just loving the drama of NASCAR.
Race winner here tonight at Las Vegas. He hit the jackpot. Craig Stykes in car number 57 for Will Worsler Racing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you what, definitely that number 57 machine ending up in victory lane. A fantastic run for him tonight when all of that carnage broke loose. But folks, the point standings have been tallied after this race. So before we get to the race results, let's talk points, because points are a very big picture. Hot off the press, new points leader for the first time this season. Slice yourself up a piece of cheesecake. Adam Jersky and the Adam Jersky's or Beef Jersky's Cheesecakes number 69 machine will head into Talladega with a 2-point advantage over the number 55 of Brian Yazik. Jimmy McKee gonna bump himself plus 4 positions. Came into tonight's 7th place in points. He's now 3rd. 3 markers behind Adam Jersky. Greg Evans in the number 2 machine. He is on the bubble. 4 markers behind Adam Jersky. John Jenkins, first man on the outside looking in, 2 points behind Greg Evans. Tyler Seville, 3 points behind Greg Evans. Will Worsler, 5 points behind Greg Evans. And Alan Young, currently the 8th position in points. He's going to have to pick up 10 points over Greg Evans. And when you consider that he's going to have to also pick up points on Worsler, Seville, and Jenkins, that's kind of a tall task. Alan Young could be looking at a win to be in next week in the Young Gun Creations number 24 machine. But definitely for Jersky, Yazik, McKee, and Evans, those will be the green names when we bring up the point standings next week. Those are the drivers currently in. Jenkins, Seville, Worsler, and Young on the outside. What a difference a couple of laps makes here. But Greg, why don't you take us through the top 10 here tonight in the finishing order?
A wild finish here in Las Vegas. It was Craig Stykes pulling it off. Second win of the season for the driver, the number 57 from Will Worsler Racing. He wins with A.J. Digby, the satellite driver for that same team, coming home in second. Kelsey Rogers rounds out the top 3 in third position. Woody Mahan goes from 19th to 4th in the number 84 Mahan Speed Laboratories entry. And then your highest finishing playoff driver, how big is that for Jimmy McKee in the number 8? He snuck by Brian Yazik by 11 one-thousandths of a second. Yazik finishes 6th. Krobach comes home in the 7th position. James Lorello, Adam Jersky, and Jay Crable round out the top 10.
Yeah, what an absolute nuts finish. Finishing in 11th was one of your playoff drivers, the number 24 machine of Alan Young. Like I just mentioned, he is kind of in a win-to-get-in situation next week at Talladega. That'll be a storyline that we'll be following. Jordan Harnish in the number 32 machine. He also has the Beef Jerky's cheesecakes on the hood of that machine. He finishing in 12th. Will Worsler in 13th after going up and over. A little bit of an unlucky number 13 here tonight for Will Worsler after that late race accident, bringing out the caution that really changed the complexion of the race. Tyler Seville, so close to getting the checkered flag himself here tonight, finishing 14th. Greg Evans, who looked to possibly be, running in second there until some late race contact with the outside retaining wall. He finishes down in 15th. Chris Bouchard in the 50. 16th. Tim Knott down in 17th. Jason Stewart 18th. Troy Haight in the number 28 machine 19th. And John Jenkins, who was, in all intents and purposes, probably about, I'd say, 3 or 4 football fields away from seeing the white flag as the race leader. He led us back to green flag. He even led coming on the last lap when the white flag finally flew under that green-white checker. Comes home 20th, the last car on the lead lap. He is going to need a big race next week when we get to Talladega there, Greg.
Coming home with a 21st position was Michael Whiting in the number 44 with Richard Stallings to hit in 22nd. Those were the first 2 cars 1 lap down. Only one other car 1 lap down. That was Pete Baskins in the number 27. Alex Giese in the number 77 with John Van Varelis rounding out the top 25. Mark Myers, Richard Flesher, J.R. Bash are the final cars running at the end. Cars that did not finish tonight were Bradley, Tanner Sharp, Sam Crow, Doug Mullins, and Todd Kirkwood. Peter, a wild night in Las Vegas. Now we're going to go party it up on Fremont Street with the rest of the great ASRS fans, but these drivers, they got to go get ready for Dega next week.
Well, you know how in the infield portion of the racetrack, we'll see if we can bring up the blimp cam just for a brief moment, because I want to see, we might not be able to. At the end of the race is closing. But if you look closely, the garage there, which I think they call it the Neon Garage, if you look at it closely, it resembles a wrestling ring. It's kind of got 4 corners to it. Yeah, we might see a couple of drivers with a Royal Rumble right there in the inside of the racetrack after that show here tonight. But I'll tell you what a race tonight, Greg. It's going to be an awesome one next week at Talladega. Make sure you join us for that one. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be the cutoff. Who is going to make it into the Final Four for a shot to win the championship when we get to the American Regardless 200 at Phoenix Raceway here in a little over a month from now. it is going to be season changing for 4 of your top 8 drivers in points. I'm very much looking forward to it. Before we go, big shout out to Dirty Bird Sim Racing for jumping on board, sponsoring tonight's race, as well as many other of the league sponsors. Serve Pro for sponsoring the Serve Pro Wheelman Showdown. Hacksaw PCs for sponsoring the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series, giving away a PC to the series champion. Big shout out to our friends over at Sim TV for giving us the camera package that we give you each and every week. But Greg, any final thoughts? I can't wait for next week.
I think what just happened is pretty much wrapped up all of our thoughts. We're all still trying to process what has happened here in the last 20 minutes. We're going to go enjoy the night here on Fremont because it's a big one in Talladega next week, Peter. I can't wait to get to Alabama. Absolutely. For myself, Peter Short, Greg Rentz, and Carlos Acosta manning the cameras each and every week here for the American Sim Racing Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. We want to give each and every one of you good night. We'll see you at Talladega. Let's go have some fun on the high banks. Same time, same place. See ya!